All right. Hopefully, this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another Monday morning tech chat show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, some gadget guy, the SGG of this terribly named podcast. And the QA stands for question and answer, because whenever we broadcast live every Monday morning, I like to make this an interactive conversation, not just what old tech man yells at you from his porch. Flying by the seat of my pants this morning, my alarm didn't go off. I had a crazy paralytic nightmare about my daughter, so I woke up super frazzled and flustered. The camera interface that I use wouldn't work with OBS, so I had to reboot my computer twice to get OBS to see my camera. And then I spent the last 10 minutes trying to figure out why Mixer wasn't working. Unfortunately, Mixer is not going to live stream this week because apparently you just need to reauthorize what's going on. So apparently today is just going to be, pants on fire, the house burning down. That's the phrase I was looking for. A house burning down all around me kind of live stream. So it should be fun. Should be real fun because we've got a ton of awesome tech news to talk about. I need to take another sip of water already. I'm already gonna be draining my super delicious Mega Pickle coffee mugs. It was hilarious. So you get through that intro, and I was really convinced that the camera wasn't going to fire back up once I turned off that awesome intro that Steve, who I believe is in the live chat, who made for me. This was, I'm rambling. I'm going to stop right here, take a nice deep breath, because I'm seeing some awesome folks in the live chat. Gary the Fireman, Charlie Spirit Song, Matt Tyler, Steve, hey, that's me, LFA Reviews, LFA. Buenas quesadillas to you too, my good friend. And I'm telling you, chorizo in a breakfast quesadilla. It's good times. You should do it. I'm seeing my favorite river otter, Memrenglot. I'm seeing Tech Lovin' Mama. I'm seeing so many cool folks. Aditya Anil. Kiwi Mad Dog 420. I might have already said your name. Okay, cool. Oh, look at this. Steve dropping them pickles in the chat. Oh, those are some tasty, savory, delicious Mega Pickles. Yeah, apparently emotes are a thing on Twitch, and there are some Gadget Guy emotes. So if you would like to participate with wacky little tiny pinky-sized cutouts of my face or some Mega Pickles, you can participate in Twitch and do that too. Okay, we got to get through some housekeeping. What are the over-under, folks? What's the over-under on housekeeping? Are we seeing another 12 minutes, 10, 12 minutes, something like that? Because I'm already starting about 5 minutes late, so I'm going to try and blast this. I'm going to try and go. We're going to do this. Matt Tyler, just over. The over-under is that you're going to go over. Ooh, Gary the Fireman getting specific, 12 minutes and 15 seconds. Matt Tyler saying 20 minutes. Charlie Spirit Song, you get a pickle. He gets a pickle. She gets a pickle. Everyone gets a pickle. Memrenglot expecting 1355. Oh, we're getting some prices right action going on here. Okay. Steve saying under 12 minutes. It's 9:09. This is my JMX 20. Okay, hold on one second. Let me pull this back up here. Okay. I'm going to go into screen share. Hopefully this all doesn't explode on me. Let's go. Boom. Okay, screen share still works. Excellent. Man, I feel like I'm like duct taping this live stream together. Okay, first bit of housekeeping. Oh, that's from the podcast last week. First bit of housekeeping. The feature we should all be most excited about in Android 10 is, of course, desktop mode, and we can finally see it in action. I fired up it was actually Dev Preview 5 on the OnePlus 7 Pro when I did this, but you can also now fire it up on the new Open Beta for Android 10. The Open Beta is running really well and brings a whole bunch of video recording features to the OnePlus 7 Pro, but you plug in a cable and then a really simplified, super basic, ultra raw interface will pop up on a TV or a monitor, but it does have individual window support, and it's working surprisingly well for a super rough preview version of a beta feature in a beta operating system. So you can check that out. I really do believe that over the next couple years, desktop modes on phones will start to savage laptop sales. What we're going to take a look at from the announcements today at IFA, I have a whole block of laptop announcements, and there's some cool stuff. I mean, definitely some premium, some high-end components, Windows machines. It's good stuff. But the more I keep looking at what's going to be exciting in the world of mobility, I'm kind of thinking disrupting the laptop market could play to everyone's benefit. Okay, back to housekeeping. Something super important. I mean, you can find it on SomeGadgetGuy.com, but it's on another service first. I am always nerdily super excited when I can join the folks at All About Android. So on the same day that I did the SGGQA podcast, that evening, I also did All About Android episode 436 to show off the LG V50 dual screen. Just days ahead of the announcement that LG had for another dual screen phone. I got to join Flo, Ron, and Jason was finally on the show. The last time last two times I was on All About Android, Jason wasn't on All About Android. I was like, hey, man, are we cool? Do you just not want to be on a podcast with me? Man, what's going on? Nothing like that, as far as I know. So that was a silly, crazy, fun podcast. It's always a silly, crazy, fun podcast to join. I like kind of mixing it up with Ron a little bit because he's like super ultra libertarian and I'm like crazy, give away everything, bleeding heart liberal, and got to chat out some fun news. I was wearing my focals the whole time a little bit at the end of the podcast talking about those AR glasses. And it genuinely is one of my favorite podcasts. So it's always a surreal experience when I'm talking to my favorite podcast and then the podcast hosts reply to me. Because I talk at all of the podcasts that I listen to while driving around in Southern California, and it's super rare that any of them reply to me. So you can, the link is on SomeGadgetGuy.com, but of course you can go to the Twit network, This Week in Tech network, and you can catch All About Android, or from your favorite podcast downloading service, you can download that. If you haven't heard me talk enough, there is more talking to be had, and you can check that out there. Oh, and also the App Arena. They always have an App Arena. There's a huge oversight in the App Arena. No one has ever promoted the racing series game Riptide. So when you go to the App Arena for All About Android, you have to vote for Riptide. That is a huge oversight. We have to correct it. It's one of the best racing game series on Android. It's one of the best game series on Android, period. And if you were listening to All About Android, I don't think it's on sale anymore, but Riptide was free in Google Play. So not only is this an amazing game, no microtransactions, but it was free. So go check that out. You got to vote for Riptide. That's the plug I'm putting out there. A quick editorial on SomeGadgetGuy.com. Let me go back into Windows Capture Screen Share here. Android 10 on the Google Pixel 3a living up to promises and expectations. So obviously I've been super hyped about things like desktop mode. Even in this editorial, I'm talking about desktop mode on the OnePlus 7 Pro. There's something I think, just getting back to basics, super, super simple. We're kind of taking it for granted, and I don't want us to take it for granted. When we look at the iOS ecosystem, even though I don't believe the last couple iOS updates have been substance-filled updates, they've been bug fix and corrective updates, but that's still software support over years. I mean, my iPhone SE is just as current with the core of Apple's operating system as my iPhone XS. And that's absolutely not something that happens in Android land. So when Google puts out first-party devices, I think we kind of shrug off, oh yeah, of course, if you have a Pixel, you're gonna get updates. I don't want us to lose sight of how and when those updates come in. When Android 10 came out, there were two important tests for the Pixel ecosystem: older devices and the Pixel 3a. It wasn't that the Pixel 3 got Android 10, and then the Pixel 2 was on a delay, and then the Pixel 1 was a month later. It wasn't that if you bought a Pixel 3a and you got the lesser device that you got lesser support. So I wrote up an editorial just kind of sharing some feelings about that. I want us to praise. I think that's an important milestone for Google to reach, where they made a claim about support, and every device so far has lived up to that support claim. That's not something that can be said of any other major Android manufacturer. The closest is Essential, and they have one phone. I don't think they're going to make any more. The next closest is OnePlus. The next closest after that is Nokia. We can get close, but I think Google does deserve some credit. While I'm not always super excited about their hardware, we have to hold Google to a certain standard for software, and I feel like this Android 10 launch, they lived up to that, to those expectations. And I am looking forward to Pixel 4. I'm really hoping we see something exciting for Pixel 4. And lastly, wrapping up housekeeping, the Xperia 1 camera conclusion. So I've spent a lot of time shooting. It was a sad day not holding on to the Xperia 1. I'm hoping I can soon get an Xperia 5. We're going to talk about that because of all of the IFA announcements. 3 cameras, 2 camera apps, and 1 Xperia. This was a very happy camera review to put together. I've had a sort of a love-hate relationship with Sony cameras on phones, I should say, not Sony standalone mirrorless cameras. And I went into the Xperia 1 with some anxiousness because I'm very excited about the display. I really think premium phones should have gone to 4K screens a long time ago, and Sony definitely nailed that. The display on the Xperia 1 is phenomenal. But I was anxious. The cameras are always kind of a hit or miss, an often miss situation. But when you see pro features and true pro modes on a Sony smartphone, in one generation, the Xperia going from one of the worst auto mode, unfamiliar experiences that I've ever used to one of the best, I want to really make things with my phone kind of platforms is very exciting. So the camera conclusion is out there, and the last bit of just sort of support housekeeping. I'm going to go back into screen share here real quick. So I got a lot of feedback after, not a lot, I got like 3 emails and a couple of angry tweets. But I got some feedback after I posted my OnePlus 7 Pro camera review. So I'm screen sharing SomeGadgetGuy.com, and on the right-hand side, there's obviously the support banner at the top, but there's also standalone lists for all of my camera reviews and all of my audio reviews. So when you click on the camera reviews, I've broken it up by year, but you can see on each individual phone there are separate links. I used to link directly to the full deep dive reviews on Patreon, and I think that was probably not inappropriate, but I got some feedback from folks saying like, hey, it's taken us directly to a paywall site, and we know that you're putting out some sort of condensed, the camera conclusion is a public video. Could you link us to that so we go directly to something that we can really watch, and then have a separate link if we want to check out the Patreon? And I think that's fair. So for moving forward, whenever I put out a camera review and I put out a camera conclusion, I'm going to publicly list in this camera reviews list. I'm going to list the camera conclusion and then have a separate link to the Patreon deep dive with all of the extra analysis. So, like for example, the Honor View 20 was the first phone of 2019 that I reviewed for the camera. You click on that, takes you to the condensed, just the conclusion part of the video, and then there's a separate link over here for the Patreon deep dive if you want to support and get the full 20 to 30 minute examination. In 2019, the only one I don't have And I could have sworn I cut one up, but I literally can't find it, and it's not on YouTube. So it might have just been one of those paralytic nightmares that I did put it together, is the Nokia 9. So I'm going to try and cut that up later today and put out a camera conclusion on the Nokia 9, because it just never did it. There's a full camera deep dive on one of the most ambitious smartphone cameras of the year, and I completely missed publicizing that I did that. So that's gonna wrap it up for housekeeping. I think I'm under. What was I started at 9:09? Nah, what is that? 12 minutes? I was so close. But yes, so you can catch all of these housekeeping bits on SomeGadgetGuy.com, and then all of the show notes will be posted publicly for the podcast once the podcast goes live on your favorite podcasting services. It's always appreciated when you share the audio versions and review the podcast on whatever podcast streaming collection service that because I'm everywhere. You want Apple, you want Google, you want Spotify, you can get the podcast in audio form pretty much anywhere you go. So, yes. Let's see. Get that out of the way there. Cool. Aditya Anil. Missed it by 15 seconds. Okay. The reason why I like to hold my podcast on a Monday is so that we can kind of digest the news over the last week. I am going to cut out the normal sections on politics, tech and politics, FCC, kind of following up on some of the stories like net neutrality. This last week was IFA. It's the Consumer Electronics Trade Show in Berlin. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go. I was trying to put together a budget for Newegg, and we couldn't get the budget approved. But it's a little bit like a CES. Obviously, a lot of what I cover on my channel is mobile focused. I'm very into phones. But IFA is a very broad consumer electronics show where the hottest news in appliances is often at IFA. You're going to see a lot of laptop and desktop computer announcements, but not component announcements like you see at Computex. So it's a very broad show, and it's difficult to get. Like CES. CES and IFA both share this common issue where it's kind of hard to get an overall theme because you have so many different product categories and you have so many different exhibitors. Let me take another sip here. And Memrenglat in the live chat nails it. IFA is where you talk about phones, laptops, and smart connected fridges. The first time I saw AI built into a washing machine was at IFA a couple of years back. That's the tone of IFA. Is you're going to see kind of a little bit of everything. I think it started mostly as a way to showcase, like kitchen and living room technologies, and it's sort of morphed from there, and it kind of covers just about everything. So let me get this queued up here. I want to start off the major IFA announcements. I'm not going to be talking about appliances and stuff. I'm going to try and keep it mobile focused, but one of the important categories for IFA in mobile is laptops. And there were some interesting announcements, but I feel like we're right on the cusp of mobile tech finding some kind of consolidation point. I recently joined Jason, Painfully Honest Tech, on his state. So what was funny is the title of his live stream was like the state of the smartphone market in 2019. But I think we spent more time talking about philosophy, electric vehicles, and, sort of just general computer tech. And we didn't spend as much time, I think, talking about the state of smartphones. And it was one of those things. It was like I came into the stream late, and then everyone else left. And I was like, people just don't like me. LFA started the stream. I didn't even get to join LFA on the stream. Hopefully, and maybe another little mini baby collaboration coming up with LFA reviews, just to tease something which may or may not happen. I'm trying to work with TK on a project, and I'm trying to work with LFA on a project. And if it's LFA reviews, you know it's going to be real good for your ears. So IFA 2019, these are some of the laptop announcements that I thought, well, laptop and desktop announcements that I thought were kind of interesting. First up, if you're looking at some type of ultra thin portable, this market, I think, is the most in danger of getting wrecked by smartphones. I've got my little Huawei MateBook 13. It's a MacBook Air clone. MacBook Air, I think, is another one where it's kind of a toss-up now whether or not you should go for a MacBook Air style laptop or an iPad Pro. I mean, the computing power and the capabilities are now sort of reaching parity. So if you want to do something interesting with laptops, you've got to start pushing into different power tiers. It's not enough just to have sort of thin and light and decent battery life. Your phone is just as powerful in many regards. So when Razer shows up at IFA, you should expect something a little bit, I almost said something kind of dirty and gendered. You should expect something just a bit more brutal than your normal thin and light. So there's a refresh to the Razer Blade Stealth 13 coming up. This is their Ultrabook line. Super sleek, super thin. Let me see if I can make this a little bit smaller so the whole laptop will show up in the screen at once. Hey, look at that. There's the Razer Blade 13, Razer Blade Stealth 13. And the news here is they're getting the new GeForce GTX 1650 graphics chip. So the Stealth has always been a thin portable solution from Razer, ultra sleek. But if you wanted beefier graphics computing, their idea was you would have this ultra slim laptop that you could take anywhere, and then you could use an external GPU with Thunderbolt. Even my Razer Blade, which has a dedicated GPU, the reason I got it was because it had Thunderbolt 3. It was one of the first laptops. Actually, I think it was the first laptop with a super high-res touchscreen display. It's a 3K display, and you can actually touch it. And it had Thunderbolt 3. Razer's idea was, hey, we're going to make external GPUs work, and we're going to make them work on all of our laptops. External GPUs never really took off. It's a lot of expense for a product category that I don't think really lit up consumers, which is funny because I'm excited about making docks and solutions for phones to do something like what Razer was trying to do with external GPUs. So we'll have to see what works, who actually brings this kind of stuff to market. But we're talking the new Intel 10th gen processors, and now there is a dedicated GPU in the Stealth line. So you've got some heavier lifting there than what we have had in a laptop this size in years past. 512 gig solid state drive. It's the 25 watt 10th gen Core i7. And starting at $1,500. So this is a critical sweet spot for laptops of this class. When my MateBook 13 launched, it launched with that super underpowered NVIDIA MX chip. And I want to say it's 8th gen. It's an 8th gen Intel CPU. It launched at $1,300. So from a year ago to probably end of this next fiscal quarter, to add $200, probably have a slightly sturdier build, not quite as plasticky a build. I love the displays that Razer puts into their laptops, and to add a dedicated GPU, and we're only talking about $200 bump at retail, is pretty significant. Gary the Fireman, but will it crush my enemies on Fortnite? Oh, absolutely. I can guarantee you that if you spend $1,500 on a Razer, then no one will be able to best you in Fortnite. Steve from Q3 Becker. I have a smartphone. There's no need for a laptop. Kiwi Mad Dog 420, GTX 1050 Ti performance in a small laptop like the Blade Stealth is nice. So yeah, it's a good carryover. If it's anything like the Razer's past that I've used, I wouldn't expect tremendous battery life when you get that GPU cooking, but it's I like having that option. I like being able to run some heavy horsepower when I need to. And then, if I want to run it ultra lean and get better battery life, then I can do that too. Abraham Artemis, Fortnite, never heard of her. Quote from Minecraft. Oh, I can't hang with those kids in their battle royales. Right now I'm even having a hard time hanging with kids in auto battlers where you don't even have to play. You just set the stage and you let the characters fight for you, and I'm getting my butt handed to me. So, from Razer's new sleek, stylish, ultra portable laptop to Lenovo's new desktop kit. I'm going to start trying to reach back out to Lenovo. I used to cover a lot of their desktops. And one of my favorites was they had an iMac competitor that would fold totally flat so that you could use it like a tabletop gaming surface. Then it would open up tall, and it also had an HDMI input. So you could use it in a very modular kind of setup. Like I had a console connected to it. So it was this really amazing space conscious all-in-one desktop computer, basically a monitor that was ultra smart, and you could use it for a bunch of different things. So they're continuing with a new line of really cool looking monitors. Hold on, let me get this. It's all about reducing eye strain. So let me get this queued up here. This is coming by way of, I'm so sorry, that first article from IFA, the Razer Blade, came from 10forums.com. This is from Windows Central, and these are the new Q series of Lenovo monitors, and that looks really nice. Sort of a sidearm weighted monitor panel, so that again, you can flatten them, you can angle them, you can position them in just about any way that you might want. And we're talking AMD FreeSync, 24 and 27 inch sizes. They're 1440p, and we're expecting $300. The 27 inch monitor, 75 hertz. So it's not a high refresh rate monitor, but 75 hertz is a great resample. A sampling rate, 27 inches, $300. That's real good. I think I need one. I'm having a hard time not just being that, hey, buy more stuff, everybody, kind of guy, but I'm kind of being the buy more stuff kind of guy. But this is the kind of design and accent that I really, really like. It's very, very sleek, kind of metalled out and modern, and it's kind of what I always sort of imagined Microsoft Surface kit could look like, in that almost no bezel. I mean, there's just a frame around the screen and then a little control bar at the bottom. I don't love this sort of cable tack management, but it's still a lot cleaner than the rat's nest I have on my desk right now. And maybe I need to get rid of my little 24-inch 1080p monitor and climb up to a Lenovo 27. If nothing else, I'm just going to try and reach out and see if I can strike up a new relationship with Lenovo and Motorola, and start getting more of their kit into my review cycle. Charlie Spirit song, Lenovo, Steve, consume. Oh, and Abraham Artemis, this is always what I imagined for Surface Studio without the PC underneath. Yeah, again, super, super clean. Let's move on to some more laptop. This is another sort of attempt at making the laptop fresh again. We've seen this concept before, and I think we've even seen a concept like this from Acer, but what can we do to shake up this form factor? How can we introduce new methods of laptop computing, portability, et cetera, et cetera? And this is their new, I like this, PC World. This is coming by way of PC World. IFA 2019, Acer's introduce. I don't think that's the way the title of this article should be written. I think that's a typo. Acer's introduce pricey pro versions of their new Concept D notebooks. Concept D is a line of Acer premium kit. I think it should be Acer introduces pricey Pro versions, but who am I to correct someone else's terrible English? So the hold on, the one I want to get to is, there we go. Yeah, it's down there. So they introduced the D7. The D7 Pro is a 15-inch laptop. Looks it looks kind of Chromebooky to me. But this is a workstation grade machine, 32 gigabytes of RAM, 9th gen Intel, and an NVIDIA Quadro RTX 5000. They're going to come in 15 and 17-inch versions. And that's just a beast of a mobile workstation. But the one that's been getting all of the fun coverage is this D9 Pro, which, again, can we make a new flavor of mobile workstation and then also introduce more tablet and pen touch computing modes? And that's what the D9 Pro is. The screen is on a swivel. So it opens up like a traditional laptop, and then the screen can flip around, and then you close the laptop shell, and it becomes more of a tablet. But it's kind of a big, blocky beast. Again, 9th gen Intel and some beefy Quadro specs. But this is just more of a concept than they didn't announce this as a straight up consumer release. Aditya Inil. Ooh, that's a thick boy. Kiwi Mad Dog 420, design wise, it's a reskinned Predator Nitro laptop. Yeah, well, I mean, like, Acer, I think, kind of crosses. So they've got their gaming series and their workstation series, and some colored design subtle tweaks, and then you swap the label on the box, and you've got a whole new line of really cool new, I'm air quotes, new products. And then from Peter Hayton, I don't know about you, SomeGadgetGuy, but I do have to give Acer props for supporting Chrome OS at IFA in addition to Windows. They did. I didn't pull up any articles this week on Chrome OS, but Acer still out there supporting Chrome OS. Spec on Twitter is going to be spending some time with Dell Chromebook. So still some fun Chrome OS stuff to talk about out there. But oh, sorry, I'm going through the live chat, and the live chat's going too fast for me to catch up. From Mim Renglat, the D9 Pro is basically the Predator Triton 900, but in workstation form. And from Pacostin, seems to me a marketing ploy. Look, Intel has those super powerful laptops. AMD's are worse. Abraham Artemis, it's the more professional brother of that Alienware. So I just thought it was kind of interesting, though. Pen touch computing, flippable display. I like seeing just some different form factors and some different approaches, because I think for Windows 10, you had the Surface, you had the Lenovo Yoga style, and then you just had regular laptop shells. And at least Acer was trying to give us something a little bit different for the same type of functionality. I wonder how those hinges would last over time. You're flipping the screen full, like, what is that? Because it's not, what is that called when you it's just a 180, right? Yeah, it's not a 360. Math is hard. So you flip the screen 180 and then it becomes a tablet. I'd be curious how long those hinges last. So from one concept, I'm not going to say it's a laptop gimmick, because Acer's put out that hardware, so we know that it's real, it's not vaporware. But from one laptop flavor to a new laptop trend in gaming, I've made jokes in the past when people say, like, oh, well, you can't even really see, high frame rate. The human eye only sees 24 frames per second. You get fanboys that complain about new stuff coming out that is better than the stuff that they currently have, so they make excuses for the things that they currently have. But a couple companies actually are talking about super high refresh rate displays, and the one who made the most noise was Asus. there is a new ROG laptop, Republic of Gamers laptop, the Zephyrus SGX701. You want to write that down because this is the first ROG laptop and one of the first laptops in general with a 300 hertz display coming by way of windowscentral.com. Yep. There is a Zephyrus Asus laptop. This is ROG 300 hertz. So the screen cycles 300 times per second. To drive that, this beast of a laptop is going to be running an RTX 2080 GPU. Now, I love Zephyrus. So Asus has really simplified the Zephyrus lineup. It is super sleek. It is very, very clean. It doesn't scream Mountain Dew fueled. I don't love the aesthetic for a lot of gaming laptops because they look like, so I don't know, like aborted Transformers, like just, we wanted to make a Transformer that turns into a Vitamix. I like this simpler, edgier, cleaner aesthetic, where it just looks like it's a flat slab of aluminum that was milled to also include laptop components. 300 hertz. 300 hertz. So first of all, at full resolution, well, I don't even know what the resolution of the panel is. It's a 17-inch display, and at 300, I'm assuming it's probably some variant of 1440. It's probably not 4K. So I would be curious to know what games are supporting it. You're definitely not getting 300 frames per second in any game where you turn on ray tracing. But we went through that phase. You had TVs doing 120 hertz, desktop monitors that kicked over into. I have a 144 hertz display here. My gaming monitor is 144 hertz. Then 240 hertz started popping up. Some of those new Aorus tactical monitors, 240 hertz, and now bumping up to 300. I like that we're continuing to push the boundaries, but I wonder, once a game is supporting 300 frame per second, and you can really get 300 frames per second with the components built into that computer, is that something you get used to? Like my eyes have gotten used to 90 hertz on the OnePlus 7 Pro, and I'm spending some time with a budget phone from T-Mobile, and it's really clear that it's not a higher refresh rate display. My eyes have gotten used to a certain tier of performance between 60 and 90. It looks real nice when I bring my Razer Phone 2 out of retirement, and it's 120 hertz refresh rate display. My gaming monitor, 144 hertz. But it's one of those quality of life differences. You get a really nice 4K TV, and then you go back and you look at 1080p, and it's just not as nice. Is your eye going to acclimate to 300 hertz? I totally believe that in esports, especially if you're looking at like tactical team-based, squad-based shooter-style action, it kind of makes sense in my brain. But beyond that, again, I'm sitting here struggling with auto battlers. I'm having a hard time with, I need to jump on this super premium expensive laptop. It's V-Sync. It's got a RTX 2080, and I need to see 300 cycles per second. From Steve, I'm guessing the battery will die at a rapid pace. Abraham Artemis, it's definitely going to be full HD for its resolution, only 1080p. Matt Tyler, yeah, 4K 300 hertz screen is ways off still. From Peter Hayton, I'd be curious to see the use cases outside of gaming, where I see high refresh rates are good for some video editing, but are there any cases where we could really use this type of display? That's a great question for the live chat. Like I said, I think there are quality of life improvements for general use once we get out of 60 hertz. 60 hertz to 90 hertz, I think is a tangible improvement. And again, to 120 hertz, displays look so fluid and crisp. But what do you think could be a good use case scenario for a display beyond 120 hertz? And I'm kind of struggling to come up with anything. I like the idea of sort of a 180-degree improvement for editing high frame rate video, where the video plays at 60 frames per second. It's kind of nice to have a display that can keep up beyond that, 120 frames per second, 120 hertz. Something like that could be kind of interesting. I don't know. Let me get this down out of the way. Abraham and Artemis, for gaming, honestly, a 1080p or even a 720p is totally good enough. Most people will prefer higher refresh rate compared to resolution in those markets. That's true, especially for competitive gaming, but I kind of like higher resolution, and especially, like, I don't think I'll ever buy one, or at least I won't buy one anytime soon. But when I go down to Newegg and I get to play with their ultra wide higher resolution displays, just for more role-playing style gaming, not Twitch, not fast twitchy, I need to like headshot as efficiently as possible, but games that sort of encourage exploration, that's where super lush graphics and higher resolution really comes into its own. I mean, if you're playing Counter-Strike, 720p and make it a 600 hertz refresh rate screen, and I think you'd have a lot of gamers super amped, super happy about that. Oh, Kiwi Mad Dog 420 VR. Okay. Is any VR? I thought VR was mostly capping at around 120 hertz. Let's see. Steve, Q3 backer. I'm still waiting for YouTube to let us upload very high refresh rate videos. I mean, like, YouTube will support 4K at 60. I've been uploading a lot of camera videos 4K 60. Oh, hey, that's a good one. Aditya Anil. High refresh rate displays, maybe for live ultrasound readings. Those displays refresh at an abysmally slow rate, but that could be due to the processing happening. So MedTech could be an interesting application for a more fluid refresh rate display when we're looking at imaging, and that wouldn't be resolution dependent. I would have to believe the resolution on a lot of medical devices isn't ultra high, but there could be some benefits to having a faster refresh rate there. That could be kind of interesting. And Ruru too, a lot of people watch on old devices that can't handle 1080p 60 as it is. Yeah, I'm hoping that we see sort of a tech democracy where we can raise up some of the capabilities of older devices. It's very cavalier of me to say, oh, well, like a $400 phone here in the United States can totally handle 4K. We still have some issues in getting everybody up to speed on HD, let alone full HD, quad HD, and UHD. From Steve, Asus Republic of Gaming doesn't sound very professional in the medical field. That is a good counterpoint to using high refresh rate kit. All right, so those were some of the top announcements that I saw for tech, for laptops, for computing, especially for Windows gear. One of the reasons why I wanted to point those out, though, for those being some of the more interesting announcements, I would be nervous as a laptop manufacturer, as a desktop manufacturer, because I feel, and this is one of the things I talked about when I was on Jason's Painfully Honest Tech live stream. I don't think the next phase of mobile computing is going to be exciting. I think the next phase of mobile computing might be consolidation. Right now, major manufacturers and the top tier players, I think, have an expectation of consumers owning multiple operating system devices. So a phone, a tablet, a laptop, a desktop, some combination of full separate computers. You probably own two if you're in a first world consumer situation. If you're not, then the phone has become one of the primary computing devices that people interact with. If they're only going to own one computing device, it's probably going to be a big screened phone. We've been seeing that for a while. But if you have the privilege of being able to own multiple devices, you probably own a phone and a laptop, or a phone and a desktop, maybe even a phone and a tablet, and you've just made your peace with using mobile services and mobile products. So I think it won't be sexy, but the phone is now powerful enough to disrupt multiple other product categories. Folding phones were kind of a bust at IFA this year. We saw a few people saying, oh, I got some hands-on time with the Huawei Mate X, and we got Samsung's official, it's for real coming, we promise it's here, Galaxy Fold. We fixed it totally, but that wasn't the news, you know? I just don't think they're real. They're real consumer-facing products as much as they are status tech symbols. If a consumer is rocking one of these, they are showing off that they could spend $2,000 plus on a product that only minorly disrupts Android tablets. And Android tablets are not exactly a hot, exciting product category, right? You know, the Android tablets are an easy product to disrupt because they don't sell very well. But to disrupt that, you have to spend at least twice what you would have spent if you had just purchased a nice Android phone and a nice Android tablet. I just don't think that's real. I don't think that's gonna motivate consumers to continue shopping in the premium high end of the smartphone ecosystem. So if we can just have a regular phone experience and develop some smarter accessories that allow us to disrupt tablets, disrupt laptops, and potentially disrupt desktops, I think over the next 3 years, we're going to see the smartphones start hammering away at laptops, tablets, and low-cost desktops. Right now, if you're rocking a decent premium phone from the end of 2017 on, you likely have more computing power in your pocket than you do if you're one of those people who might buy a low-end computer from a Walmart or Target, right? That mobile device is already as powerful or more powerful than a low-end entry-level system from a retailer like Dell. So instead of buying a phone and a desktop, you could buy, I don't know, a $400 to $700 phone and then like a $30 laptop dock. Like I show this guy off a lot. This is the Chotec, but it's got Ethernet, USB ports, a memory card reader. You can input power delivery. This and I don't know, like a $500 Asus or a OnePlus 7 Pro would be a more powerful desktop computing experience than what you could spend on another $500 to $700 desktop. So, long rambling way. You guys have heard that me kind of go down this path before on this podcast, but this might be this might be the beginning of the transition point for laptops. It's not enough that you can just make a thin computer. It's super underpowered, but it gets decent battery life, and then you charge $1,500 for it. Your phone is already outperforming that experience. And we see the writing on the wall. Microsoft is making Windows run better. Windows on ARM is getting better so that you can operate Windows on phone-style processors. The apps on these mobile products are getting way better. I love showing off 4K video rendering because again, a OnePlus 7 Pro rendering 4K 60 frame per second video at a respectably high bit rate will absolutely demolish most laptops. It's just no contest. And now we're getting that commodity separation because phones are ubiquitous. I think it's never been more exciting to see gaming phones popping up, dual screen phones and accessories popping up, more photography focused phones, finding a specific fit phone for you, as opposed to, well, I had to spend $1,000 on just an all-rounder basic smartphone experience. That's not exciting. So I'm gonna take another sip here. So that was my long-winded transition. Abraham Artemis. One mentioning Walmart makes me reminded of their overpowered PC and laptops. Is that, I think, you overpriced? As I saw a bunch of videos about Walmart's new premium computer lineup not being that premium. From Peter Hayton, I think the aim with foldables is to provide another way to harness the power in that phone into additional uses in cases where it isn't practical to use a phone, even if it's possible. Whatever the philosophy might be on foldables, I don't think they satisfy real world mobile computing experiences. The Huawei Mate X, I think, is a better form factor and idea of what a foldable can be. But what do we have? You have a fragile, awkward, square tablet. Fragile, you can't drop it. You can't get it anywhere near sand. Pocket lint and grit will wear that thing out. You've got hinges and moving parts, plastic displays. You can't protect it very easily. And for a square tablet, it folds into an awkward, fragile, delicate phone. Phones are commodities. Phones are lifestyle companion gadgets. Phones get thrown into backpacks, into the seat next to you when you're driving your car. They get destroyed in my wife's purse. We're hung up on water resistance, and now with, you know, like LG's drop-in shock resistance, you know, like the device that we live most of our lives out of needs to be robust enough to handle staying in our pocket 24/7, 365. That's not going to be the case for a folding phone. A folding phone needs to be handled delicately with kid gloves, like a museum art piece. And it's going to be a long time before that's not the case, because we're always going to have to deal with plastics, not glass, for that display. So instead of that, you know, my feeling is you have a phone when you need it, and then you have accessories when you want to expand on that situation. And I understand having a little bit of extra screen real estate can be handy in some situations, but at what cost? I don't think that the fragility of the folding phone outweighs the usefulness of having slightly more screen real estate, but still not able to compete against a proper tablet or a proper laptop. And that's why I'm just not convinced. And I probably won't be for a while. So let me get this out of the way here. Oh, Steve, it was, so the brand was called Overpowered from Walmart. I forgot. I couldn't remember what the brand, Walmart's gaming brand was, but it should have been called Overpriced. With a big OP as the logo. Knock, knock, knock. OnePlus would like to have a word with you. Sorry, I completely spaced that Walmart called their PCs overpowered, because that's a lie. From Goran Petrovic, for most people, those who don't need power for work, gaming is the reason to buy something expensive. I don't see anything that can match proper PC gaming. Well, yeah, that's totally the case, but proper PC gaming requires an investment above and beyond a game console. And even, again, I'm going to take it back to mobile. You pull up a game like Bright Ridge, and you've got PS3, maybe, yeah, I'd say just into PS3 era graphics running at 90 hertz on a phone, and it looks really, really good. So we can get stupid close You can easily best Nintendo Switch graphics on a phone, and supposedly a Switch is also something that you could plug into a TV and has an acceptable gaming experience. So I think that's another thing. It kind of democratizes the gaming market, especially at a time where we're going to be looking at game streaming. So wealthier consumers might not need to drop $5,000 to $7,000 on a premium spec high-end gaming box to get super, super fluid 1080p 60 frame per second gaming, or 4K even, if we can offload the processing power onto some other service. Microsoft and Steam are the two companies I'm really hoping can pull that off, because Stadia is neat. It's sort of a proof of concept. But there's also, for mobile phones, there's also a new service called Hatch that it streams the game to your phone. You don't install any of the games. It streams the game, and then it's a subscription service, so you don't have to buy games. And I want to say it's like $8 to $10 a month, and all of the games just stream to your phone. I think it's the first to actually be the true Netflix of gaming. But, sorry. Moving on. Matt Tyler. Matt Tyler's responding to Steve. And one more reply from Peter Hayton. I agree. I'm not sure the current foldable is the right form factor, but I think this is the focus for most companies, even if this could be moving towards a future with separate accessories which add to the functionality, essentially an evolution on the modular concept. Okay, I see where you're coming from. And Paco Stin, Bright Ridge looks awesome on the G7. Thanks for recommending that game. I'm hopefully going to be doing a series at Game Crate, Newegg's gaming blog, talking about Android games that don't suck. And there are a lot. There are some great games out there. It just sucks that you've got to kind of dig through a ton of garbage. But if you're into fantasy and exploration, kind of a Zelda-style gameplay, Bright Ridge is a beautiful RPG exploration game. It's really, really sweet. And just a very chill tone. It's a fun game. It really is something special, and I would highly recommend folks check it out. But when you fire up Bright Ridge for the first time, it's going to look like garbage. You have to go into the settings and turn up all of the eye candy. And when you do, it is a beautiful, beautiful game to behold. Okay, moving right along. Also, out of IFA, disrupting the laptop market, we had a whole series of phone announcements and mobile announcements. The transition I want to go from talking about laptops into mobile is, of course, Huawei. Huawei didn't talk up phones that much specifically, but they had a couple of announcements that were kind of interesting that I think we need to dig into. Let me screen share back again. This is coming by way of Android Kenya. Everything Huawei announced at its IFA 2019 event. The two things I want to focus on: Kirin 990. This is a 7 nanometer 5G compatible SoC, the next chip that's going to be going into the Mate 30. This is going to be big news. We're expecting the Mate 30 in Munich. The Huawei always waits until after IFA to announce stuff. When I was at Pocket Now, that was a neck snapping double whammy. Fly out to IFA, come back for a little while. Oh, Munich, let's go talk about Huawei. I gotta fly again. I got a lot of stamps in my passport because of stuff like that. But yeah, it was the 990 16-core Mali G76 GPU, and then a 5G variant of the Kirin 990. Taking a shot at Qualcomm. Again, they've got a 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G compatible modem going into the Kirin 990. And I think they're also going to be beefing up the MPU. So the machine learning, Huawei was ahead of the curve. They beat Qualcomm to the punch hardcore when we started getting into neural, they call it a neural processing unit, but sort of machine learning algorithmic based analysis. And I want to say it was the Kirin 970 was the first MPU, but they beat Qualcomm, and now it looks like they're going to go multi-core on the NPU. So not only is this an octa-core CPU with a 16-core GPU, we're going to get a triple-core NPU. So they're just cores. Just cores out the wazoo. You get a Huawei and you get, what is that? That's eight CPU cores, 311. So you get 27 cores. 27 cores of stuff. I'm going to be real curious to see what happens with software services, but I think the Mate 30 is going to be a beast for just the pure computational power that's going to be in that phone. And again, will probably be one of the best laptop replacement phones of the year. The desktop mode on Huawei's, I like the desktop mode on Huawei better than DeX on Samsung. It's going to be an interesting monster. It's just how well is it going to be supported? So for all of my excitement over Kirin 990, I got to tag Huawei because they're trying to do Apple, and I don't want them to. I want them to be better. But the other announcement they had were the Huawei FreeBuds 3 powered by the Kirin A1 chip. So, like Apple, it's a pair of true wireless earbuds that are open ear designed. They don't go in the ear canal. They don't seal the ear canal or block noise. And they've got a proprietary chip to make it more seamless and easy to connect to a Huawei device. So they're saying these are open fit, true wireless earbuds that support call noise reduction and accurate real-time active noise cancellation. The only problem is that doesn't seal the ear, so it doesn't matter if you have active noise cancellation. Your ear is open, so noise is gonna get in. But you have a proprietary chip, the Kirin A1, which is going to process that noise cancellation. I'm getting real tired of these style true wireless earbuds. This is basically future garbage. I like on my YouTube, if you do the YouTube community stuff, and I also shared it on Twitter too, someone put together this cute little animation about AirPods reaching end of life. We can't service these things. They're fused, sealed plastic garbage. Tiny little batteries designed to wear out much, much faster than nicer headphones would last. I have cans that are getting on to be around 15 years old that still sound amazing. I on my Some Audio Guy Twitter, I just tweeted out I finally got a new pair of Beyerdynamic DT770s, and I went for the 770 Pros, 250 ohms. The only phone that can drive those headphones are LG Quad DAC phones. No other phone is going to sound good connected to these headphones. But I'm expecting those headphones to last well past Lex going to college. She's not yet 4. You pick up a pair of AirPods, and if you only casually listen a little, they should last you a couple years. If you're listening to those things all the time, if you're taking a ton of phone calls on AirPods, you have to just charge cycle them throughout the day. Those are earbuds that might not last a year before battery degradation sets in, and you can't fix them, you can't repair them, and they're open ear earbuds, which means you're probably listening louder than you should. This is not the path I want Huawei to walk down, and I don't want governments to get involved, but this is the true wireless fad of the sort of middle price around $100. To me, just really does seem like future planned obsolescence e-waste. I want to see other solutions. I want to see a return to neckbands, and I want to see products that can be serviced and maintained and repaired so that they don't just become garbage. Because that's the other thing with AirPods and other true wireless earbuds is I think we should count on a significant number of consumers who will not recycle those things properly. oh, my AirPods don't work. And they're just going to chuck them in a bin, and they're going to end up in a landfill, and it's plastics and metals and magnets and batteries just in the garbage. I think it's the convenience factor of true wireless is going to be a very, very dirty solution for waste. And I want us to be doing better than that. So Huawei, super excited about the Kirin 990. Looks like a monster. Can't wait to see what you do with your phones. Your headphone game, you could be better than this. You could be doing a lot better than this. I've got LFA in the chat, and he's kind of backing me up here, man. I love it. Sean digs tech. Or in the case of Samsung buds, they're currently garbage. Kiwi Mad Dog 420. I have been saying this. They should have spent pennies per unit for rubber for that passive noise isolation. Same. I have been a broken record player on repeat for Apple, for AirPods. Apple has never included true intraoral earbuds, and at some point I have to believe it's because they're too cheap. So from Aditya Anil replying to LFA reviews, I missed that price tag. Nope. Hopefully you can get a loaner unit, because on those designs at that price tag, nope. From Pat Ghostin, AirPods cannot be recycled, by the way. The design makes them a hazard in the recycling process. So I saw someone try and open AirPods, and apparently it's exceedingly difficult and dangerous to open AirPods and not rupture the batteries. Again, this is like this design, and I'm targeting AirPods, but it looks like Huawei's FreeBuds won't be much different in this regard. Looks almost consumer hostile if you want to try and make your gadget investment last longer. And I'll just keep throwing it back. If you've got the opportunity to stick with some cabled earbuds or some cabled headphones, you will spend less for much higher audio quality, and they will last, as long as you take care of them, they will last virtually forever. Aditya Anil, hashtag some broken record guy. All right, moving right along. Let's get into some actual phone announcements. I want to start with a company that never gets enough love, and I like their products. TCL is a shadow manufacturer. They make Blackberries. I think they manufactured the tiny little Palm phone that was sort of a pocket smartwatch. Not really a true phone, but it's just a licensing deal. They license the BlackBerry name, and they make Blackberries. They license the Palm name. They make Palms. But their own phones in the past were some of the best entry-level and mid-ranger phones you could get your hands on, and they just never got enough visibility. You would throw up like a Moto G3 or a Moto G4, but some of those TCL idols were way better. The Idol 3 and the Idol 4 specifically. Stereo speakers, decent cameras, good chips, an acceptable amount of storage, and build quality that wasn't too far off the mark from flagship phones. So I really want to, I would really like to see TCL make another push in the United States market when we've got a couple players coming back in for that $200 to $300 price tier. In $200 to $400, I should say like $200 to $500 could be a really exciting market for TCL to come back. And if this is what they're going to make, I think they might have a shot. So this is a snarky article from Tech Radar, but it was the first that I found, talking about the TCL Plex. Rear fingerprint sensor, triple camera setup, and the specs are pretty solid. It's the the Snapdragon 675. So it's the same chip it's a very similar chip to what you'll find in a Pixel 3a. That's a great performing mid-range processor. What is it? Triple camera. So there's a 16 megapixel and 2 megapixel. Oh, sorry. Let me rephrase that. Main sensor is the 48 megapixel monster with a 16 megapixel and a 2 megapixel sensor in flanking it. So right now it looks like there's going to be a wide and a depth sensor, and one of those new higher resolution front-facing cameras, a 24 megapixel front-facing camera, 6 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage, 3,800 milliamp hour battery, and we're thinking that the launch price is going to be somewhere between $360 and $450. But it looks like a decent phone. I would love to see TCL competing again as an unlocked option, or also as maybe a label. Like you put out the TCL Plex internationally, and then maybe T-Mobile picks this up as the next generation Revel. I'm playing with the T-Mobile Revel. That phone is way better than it has any right to be at $350. So I'm silly stoked to see if they could pull off another solid mid-ranger. I think they just missed some of the limelight when we were going through the Honor 8 and the Axon 7 and the OnePlus 3. We had these $400 monsters, but right behind them were some $300 idols that were so good. But the big news was, Axon 7, OnePlus 3. And I feel like this was a company that just missed some positive commentary. I still think one of my wife's all-time favorite phones was the Idol 3. She loved those stereo speakers, and she loved that the entire phone, was less expensive than replacing the screen on her busted Galaxy S4. So I'm hoping we see this soon, and I'm hoping we see this in the United States. I'd love to see this player show up. I think this would be an awesome competitor against Moto, against Coolpad. Coolpad made an awesome $200 phone. And now the Samsung A series could use a bit more competition too. And I think TCL could do it. They've been making some awesome phones. Going from sort of the mid-range of the market to the high end of the market, I wrapped up my time with the Sony Xperia 1 just in time for Sony to take the wraps off of the Xperia 5. I don't get Sony's naming conventions at all. But this is straight up. This is the B&H blog announcing that they're going to be putting the Sony Xperia 5 up for pre-sale. They also showed it off with their new true wireless earbuds. If you're going to go true wireless and you can afford to step up to some Sonys, I hear they're pretty nice. But Xperia 5, we're looking at the same 21:9 screen form factor, but in a slightly smaller display. So it looks like the baby brother to the Xperia 1. A lot of the same specs. I think almost exactly the same specs and same cameras. And it might even be the same size battery. I can't see. Hold on. Let me see if on the pre-order page for B&H. Oh, no, it just takes you to bnh.com. Hold on. Let me manually type in now Xperia 5 B&H. Yeah, so it's the 855. But I just want to see if they'll tell us what the battery is. More details. Come on. Give me the specs. I don't want the specs. Okay, so it's a lower resolution display. It's a 1080 display as opposed to the UHD display. Rear camera system, general. It will be IP68. Ooh, this could be good. The battery is the 3300 milliamp hour battery. Okay, that could be not sucky. So the battery, I'm finishing up my full phone review for the Xperia 1 because I had to shoot ahead, and it's hard to work backwards when you don't have the phone anymore. The Xperia 1 battery life is surprisingly good. For a UHD display and a slightly smaller battery, it's hanging with Galaxy S10s. I mean, it's a good performer. I think we would all prefer having a bigger battery. But the exact same size battery in a slightly smaller, lower resolution display on the Xperia 5 could make this a solid day-and-a-half performer. So that might not suck. Oh, and it looks like Fat Produce finally joined the chat. Everyone say hey to Andrew. Hey. Ross did. The battery will be good since it's only powering a 1080p display. You can check it out on AnandTech. Not AnandTech. I don't know that AnandTech did a battery test on the Xperia One. You know what? Check it out on GSM Arena. GSM Arena's battery stats on the Xperia One, it was outperforming a lot of the smaller flagship phones of this year. And anyone who's going, oh, well, UHD is going to kill my battery, meh. Nope. Not true. UHD does fine with a small battery capacity. Okay, Xperia 5, though. Getting back to what was announced at IFA. Pre-order now, B&H, $799. It's an $800 phone. So Sony's still coming in. It's a premium price tag option, but with all of the improvements to the camera sensor, as mentioned in housekeeping, I've been digging into the Xperia 1 camera performance quite a bit. It's a solid option. It's a shame that people are too quick to make that joke. Oh, Sony still makes phones? Every single time you bring up Sony, because I'm liking these new Xperias. I'm digging what they're trying to accomplish here. Aditya Anil, what's the SoC? So no. The Xperia 5 is the baby brother Xperia 1. It looks like everything is exactly the same, but it's a smaller, lower resolution display. So it's still a Snapdragon 855. It's going to be a beast of a performer. I wish we could maybe get some kind of Xperia compact, but the phone is so skinny. Like it's surprisingly easy to use one-handed laterally, a little trickier to use one-handed vertically. But I don't know. It's special and it's unique, and I wish it were getting more attention. Pacostin, blah, OLED. Sony was a stranglehold of LCD. Again, it's funny watching people kind of battle back and forth with their love for LCD or OLED display technologies. Oh, and Andrew from Fat Produce, did you see that the OnePlus 7 Pro Android 10 update looks to add wide-angle video support? I'm running Android 10 on my OnePlus 7 Pro, and I will be producing an addendum to my camera review because covering OnePlus cameras is a major pain in my butt. Okay, so, and you can shoot wide and now a super steady shot on the OnePlus 7 Pro. Moving right along, talking about cameras, another company who will hopefully be building up a new product line and some new fan base and getting some more attention because tech is boring when we only talk about Samsung and Apple. Motorola. This is coming by way of Gizbot. IFA 2019, Motorola One Zoom with quad rear cameras launched. So, 4 cameras on the back of the Motorola One Zoom. Again, another phone using mid-ranger chipset, the 675, 4 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage. We've got the 48 megapixel monster rear shooter, 16 megapixel, 8 megapixel, and a 5 megapixel cameras. I don't know that anyone was really concerned about having more cameras on the back of their phone, but you have all the cameras on the back of this phone. And apparently it's also bringing back a headphone jack, excuse me, and coming with a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. Expected pricing $450 in North America. Whew. I mean, this is a huge shot, in my opinion. This is a big shot against Pixel 3a style phones. Hold on, let me get another drink of water here. I'm super dry. From Pacostin, I don't care about in-display fingerprint sensors. I think in-display fingerprint sensors are a bummer, but if the market is going to kind of force us on them, and there's not a lot of room on the back of this phone if you've got 4 camera sensors and you also have to make room for a battery. But 128 gigabytes of storage, 4 gigabytes of RAM, a solid mid-ranger chipset, and if it's bringing back a headphone jack, that's just going to make me silly excited in general. And a decently sized battery, a 4,000 milliamp hour battery with that chipset should be easy all day, all night, and all next day performance under light use. Again, I'd be kind of stoked to see Motorola making another play here. From Fat Produce, I'm curious about Moto rotating the sensor so you could record 16:9 video while holding it in portrait. Shouldn't a sensor technically capture a 1:1 aspect ratio video and crop in software? So that's been my dream for a while. I really wish we could just go to a good square camera sensor, because then it would also be, I think, the best sensor surface area to lens dimensions, because lenses are round. Lenses are not ovals. But we sort of crop through part of the lens so that we can have a 4:3 aspect ratio. So that's one of the reasons why we went to 4:3, was to use more surface area of the lens more economically. The best would be to go just a straight up square, and then you would have, any type of crop that you want from that square. But we're pretty close with 4:3. So it just makes me happy, though, because I'd love to see death to portrait video. I think portrait video is awful, and it sucks, and you shouldn't use it. It's only acceptable for like video calls. So my daughter loves sending duo messages to my mom. That's about the only time you should ever use portrait video. Adichie Anil, a headphone jack at $450, 4 cameras. Okay, this can seriously disrupt the market. A Pixel 3a grade Huawei level hardware competitor. Get this out of the way here. Matt Tyler, more cameras means more sales, apparently. Google, hold my beer. All right, from Motorola to one of my favorite brands, showing off something kind of interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about LG's announcement. This is coming from Android Guys. LG trots out G8X and refreshed dual screen at IFA. So this is the G8X. It's a revision on the LG G8 Thin Q. It's the G8X Thin Q. So they have built a dual screen case which connects over USB-C, as opposed to the LG V50, which only works on the South Korean V50 because of those pogo pins. But it's a case that flips and folds, kind of wallet style case. And now the G8X has a lower resolution display on the phone so that it's an exact match for the resolution on the case. I haven't run into any serious issues on the V50 where the V50's screen... Do I have it up here? Hold 1 second. I don't know that it's on. I might have to boot it back up. Because if I just hold it up, you're just going to see 2 black slabs reflecting my computer monitor, and that doesn't play for a podcast. So on the V50 display is Quad HD wide. It's like 3000 by 1440. The second screen is 1080p wide, but the second screen is smaller by about the height of the notch on the V50. So when it's dual screen, the 2 screens kind of line up a little because of the... I'm trying to get it started here. The 2 screens kind of line up a little because on the bottom of your Android display, you would have some kind of navigation dock. And at the top of the display, you've got, your notification shade. Yes, leave airplane mode on and turn on the screen. I'm going to have to turn it off and turn it on again. And turn on the screen. There we go. So the 2 screens line up well enough for the most part. But, if you're really looking, you see, the top screen is smaller than the bottom screen. Now it looks like on the G8X, they're trying to make those screens match better. And there are a couple of videos out there. I think even like Josh Vergara put out a video, but every major outlet, Mr. Mobile, has a pretty good look at the new screens. But the G8X looks to be very similar to the G8 that we got earlier in the year. The notch is a smaller teardrop notch because there isn't any of the fancy time of flight sensor at the front. The screen will be a little bit lower res, but we're still getting the same two cameras, the same 12 megapixel standard and 13 megapixel ultra wide. That front-facing camera, though, will be one of those newer higher resolution cameras. So hopefully LG will finally fix their selfie game, because I think if there's any weak spot on an LG, it's the front-facing camera. But same IP68, mil-spec 810G, should be the same cameras. We should be bumping up the battery. The battery's going to get bigger, but again, the whole point is you're going to be driving two screens. So while there might be, I can't remember what the battery, I want to say it's 3400 or 3600 on the LG G8. While it's going to be like a 10% bump over the older G8, you're going to use about 15% more battery by powering a second screen. It seems to be about what my numbers have been like when I look at the V50 on its own versus the V50 with the dual screen, is it seems to take about 10 to 15% of a battery hit when you've got two displays running off the same battery. So that's kind of cool. I'm kind of torn. I like seeing these kinds of accessories on an LG. LG has been playing with modular ideas and their friends and the G5 and ways to expand on the smartphone. And the dual screen case on the V50 is a fun add-on. This is a fun way to expand a phone with very little commitment. You know, you do buy a premium phone and then you buy a premium case. This isn't cheap, but when I want, I can pop this out and go to a regular phone again. I'm not tied to a folding phone at an even higher price tag, because this dual screen V50 is still cheaper than like a Galaxy Fold or a Huawei Mate X. So I don't know. But I'm torn on the G8X because I really did like the G8. And I really do like premium phones having things like higher resolution screens. And the time of flight sensor got so much hate on the G8. But if you use something like Face Unlock, it is a true secure Apple grade Face Unlock. I really like holding my hand over the screen on the G8 when I'm cooking, because then the screen pops back up and I liked Palm Unlock. That was a cool feature. But instead of focusing on what that did well, we got way too many jokey review or editorials on like, oh, air gestures are gimmicks, and you should never buy gimmicks. Even if a phone has a gimmick is a deal breaker. Gimmicks are never deal breakers with Apple or Samsung. Gimmicks are only deal breakers on every other manufacturer. So if an LG or a Huawei or a Moto or a TCL, if one of those phones has a gimmick, then you should not buy it, because gimmicks are bad. But it wasn't a gimmick. If you want Face Unlock and you want it to be Apple grade secure, then you need that extra hardware. And that's what we're going to see on the Pixel 4. That is the next evolution of controlling your phone with some kind of, radar sensing hand gestures. We're moving to other methods of interacting with data and services. So I'm going to miss that on the 8X. And I don't know if I'm going to be circling heavy into the 8X. I still need to finish wrapping up the V50. I finally got my hands on the V50, and we're already talking about LG's next phone for this year. That's a bit much for LG to handle. But ultimately, the reason why this is still a positive announcement: headphone jack, quad DAC, ESS Saber, 4 stages of cleaning, super loud amp. Like I said, I just replaced my Bear Dynamic DT770s. If you want the best-in-class audio experience, it's an LG. LG is the only game in town. I just posted on Twitter recently, there's a T-Mobile refurbished LG G7 that you can pick up for, what is it, $175? $175 for last year. It's a refurb, but last year's premium LG G series with a quad HD display, solid dual rear cameras, the quad DAC, the best version of their boombox speaker mode. I still think the G7 is the loudest version of that boombox speaker mode. And you can pick it up for less than the price of most premium standalone digital audio players. So if you wanted to rock like a Fio or like an Echo Box or one of these standalone music players, if you spend $200 on a standalone media player, it will not be as nice as picking up a refurbished LG G7 at $175. It's so good. Yeah, real good. Some dual speakers on the G8X. The V40, the G8, the regular G8, and the V50 have all been doing dual speakers. So, well, okay, to be fair, the dual speakers on the G8 should be air quotes because the G8 uses that in-display speaker tech, but it has two audio reproducing units. The display sort of puts out some audio, and then the bottom of the phone puts out some audio. But going to the G8, it's just two regular speakers, an earpiece speaker and the bottom speaker. So, okay, I guess that makes sense. Because the G7 only had the mono speaker, but the boombox was, really nice. And wrapping up, IFA. This is going to be a long podcast, folks, because I still want to do the plug for glowing rectangles, and then we got to talk about Apple tomorrow. Samsung. We got to talk just shortly before IFA, but really showcased during IFA. I like this play from Samsung. I have not been particularly excited about Samsung Galaxy S and Galaxy Note series phones. I don't like the price creep. I don't like Samsung backpedaling, making fun of Apple for things like headphone jacks and then pulling the headphone jack out of the Note. I think things like reverse wireless charging are bad gimmicks to put into phones because they will reduce the overall life of a very expensive handset. And I don't like how they're trying to disrupt the resale market with their trade-in offers. So they're outpricing the resale market so that you'll keep buying Samsung phones. A lot of business practices that I don't really agree with. But one of the things that I am happy to see is their pivot on the A series. So Samsung has a shotgun approach for their less expensive and their mid-range products. But up until this year, I don't think the A series have really been price competitive against the onslaught of every other manufacturer that's making a $200 to $400 phone. And the Pixel 3a was a hard shot. It was a kidney punch into a lot of these premium manufacturers to make better mid-range phones. I think Samsung is stepping up to compete better there. The A90 could be one of those disruptor phones. So they announced the A90 5G. And this is what I think is kind of interesting is where it's only going to be into the second year of 5G actually making it into our phones. Then now we're going to start seeing some better mid-range support. So this is coming by way of Pocket Now. Tony Anton Denage writing this one up. Samsung Galaxy A90 5G announced on the Snapdragon 5G platform. Really clean, simple, straightforward phone. It's got a teardrop notch at the top. I don't love that, but looking real solid specs-wise. We've got it's a 1080p display. It's an AMOLED screen, 6.7-inch phone, mini tablet phone, but with a Snapdragon 855 and the new Snapdragon X50 5G modem. So this is it looks like a direct competitor to the LG 8X that we just talked about, and it'll probably be cheaper. So, I mean, yeah, full HD display, a 32 megapixel selfie shooter, 6 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage to start, and a triple camera setup with that 48 megapixel monster shooter, an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 5 megapixel depth sensing unit. And it should be available today in South Korea. We don't know what Western pricing is going to be, but I'm assuming somewhere around 700. What do we think an A90 is going to cost? It's a 5G capable phone, triple rear cameras, flagship premium grade SoC, a decent AMOLED screen. I'm going to say between $700 and $800. What do we think? Fat Produce, so many 48 megapixel shooters in 2019. That sensor is so good. I don't know that anyone has really gotten that sensor right yet. The camera apps that people have been using with that 48 megapixel sensor have all just gotten real close, but just missed the mark. I still think Honor is probably the closest, but it's a half-inch sensor. It's slightly larger than the sensors that you'll find in a Galaxy S or an LG V or G series phone. Just slightly larger than what comes on an iPhone. It's so good. We just need some software push to finally start getting it right. It took us a little while to get this current camera sensor right. You know, Samsung on the S7 showed us like, okay, you could do some really cool stuff. You've got dual pixel autofocus. It's good. But I would say it was around the S9 that sensor really came into its own. And now you're getting amazing performance out of the V50 on that. I think it's a 1/2.6 inch sensor. So now on this half-inch sensor, I would imagine next year we're really going to see camera apps getting the most out of what this thing can really do. But it's so good. It's just, it's so good. So Kiwi Mad Dog 420, the A80 is already $600 plus. Aditya Anil hoping the A90 will come in at $650. I don't know. I'm saying $750. Conservative in the United States. I think it's going to arrive around $750. It's a 5G phone, so I think you're going to have at least $100 premium just for the 5G label on the phone, and especially for licensing all of that 5G tech from Qualcomm. From Matt Tyler, Samsung releasing massive phones and the Note is just sat there at $1,200 like, okay. Samsung may as well stuck the S Pen in the S range and scrap the Note. I don't know. I there's that part of me, where is it? It's always within arm's reach. I have my trusty, almost knocked over the camera. I have my trusty Note 4. I always have this phone nearby. I still use it on almost every video I shoot because I run my teleprompter software off of the Note 4, in part because it's also got a grippy back, you see. So when you slot a Note 4 into a little teleprompter shell, it doesn't slide out because glass is a stupid material to make all of our phones out of. It makes me sad that the Note name no longer represents the best of the best of the best. You have to get the Note Plus if you want the best of the best of the best that Samsung has to offer. And they've given up on things like headphone jacks because why give consumers a great feature that's universal and cheap to license and can work with any type of audio solution, including cars that don't have Bluetooth, when we can make you rebuy accessories like headphones so that you have to use Bluetooth or get some crappy dongle that you'll lose in a week. Samsung, we're just like Apple. So, I digress. For all of my complaints about Samsung and the premium end of the market, I am actually looking forward to what this A90 can do. If, again, like any gadget, pricing is critical, but if they can undercut the premium phone market, most of the devices that are already rocking a Snapdragon 855 and include that 5G support, it's not just a good move for Samsung. This could really help with 5G adoption. Right now, I think the cheapest solution to getting into 5G would be to pick up an old Motorola and try and source one of those Moto mods that slaps a 5G radio onto the back of the phone. I just don't know that that's going to be a great solution for a lot of people. So yeah. From Matt Tyler, removing the headphone jack is just a marketing move to push sales of their wireless stuff. Just stupid. I have to do a podcast shout out. The folks, my buddy Adam Dowd produces the Sound Guys podcast. He's not always on the podcast, but he produces their podcast. And they just recently did another examination of the wireless audio market and why even in 2019, it's still ruthlessly anti-consumer to get rid of the headphone jack. And it's just a shame because most of the market has kind of gotten rid of the headphone jack. And I don't think the holdouts, LG, I'm hoping LG lasts through 2020, but I don't think they're going to last much longer than that because there's just too much money to be made by making people buy crappier versions of what they already have and in ways that will wear out faster than the solutions they used to have. And they had some great specs in that podcast. You know, they're saying, oh, well, the Bluetooth industry is touting their horn. More than half of all new headphone sales are Bluetooth. And you're like, well, yeah, I guess that's exciting for Bluetooth earbuds and Bluetooth headphones, but it doesn't really describe the headphone market because half of all new sales completely ignores all the people like me who have had really good headphones for years and haven't needed to buy new cabled headphones in a while. I do because I'm a dork and I collect this stuff. Whenever you get into collecting gadgets and electronics and recording kit as a hobby, that is dumb for your wallet. Don't be like me. But if you were rocking a really nice pair of Sennheisers, like say you had some HD 590s, you know, it was like a 598 or a 599, you spent a couple $100, but those headphones should last you decades. So you're not a part of those sales charts. Well, over half of all new headphones are Bluetooth. Well, yeah, because people who have good cabled headphones didn't need to buy new headphones this year, unless they also got a new phone that doesn't have a headphone jack. From a DT, and hopefully LG will retain the quad DAC and just remove the jack and output the DAC via USB-C. Would be a shame to see LG lose the quad DAC and jack. I'm not impressed with the USB solutions. I really thought we would see more DACs and amps and ways that we can plug into USB-C, but too many times I go to use my phone and I kind of need both. I kind of need a jack for my headphones and some way to charge the phone or connect to another device. I don't want to lose that functionality, but if you get rid of the headphone jack and I have to go over USB-C, I lose functionality on that from a device that I am increasingly trying to do more things from my phone. It drives me nuts. All right, quick plug. I'm going to try and keep this a little shorter. Content creators need your help. There are people online trying to make awesome stuff for you to watch, and they're not getting the love or the attention or the support that they need. Case in point, yours truly. I went over my YouTube stats. My views are up 15%. My watch time is up 26%. 26% month over month. And my subscriptions are up, I think, 15%. I might have my views and my subscriptions flipped. But anyway, all of my stats way up. For everyone complaining about how I put 1% of my videos behind a Patreon paywall, the actual numbers, my viewership on YouTube has never been better. My subscriber base has never been stronger. My watch time has never been higher, and my revenue is down. I'm making less money on YouTube with all of my stats, big green arrows on YouTube up. I know I am not being shared. I know I am not being recommended. I know people who smashed that bell icon are not getting notified. YouTube has become a toxic echo chamber of popularity and trending topics, which is why you see so many content creators going through this existential crisis of, I can't make another Samsung video, but if I make a video about anything else, YouTube is going to savage me for not talking about the most popular trending topics. A passive view is not enough anymore if you really like a content creator. So one of the platforms that I'm trying to help with exposure, with finding new topics, with promoting people that deserve more attention is a subreddit. I made it a couple years ago. It's starting to pick up a little traction today. It's reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. We're getting a few new members every week. It could use your help, your support, if you want to share it, if you're a part of the Reddit community, if you just want to use it to find new things, you can use it as a resource to find new content, new voices, new producers. And I am super proud of the fact that what is consistently voted the highest every week on our glowing rectangles is a much broader discussion of technology than what you see in your YouTube feed. When you go to YouTube, you're going to see Apple and Samsung and a few other things. On glowing rectangles, we're finding a huge variety of topics. Samsung and Apple are in there, but there are other things to talk about, and producers are making exciting content about a lot of other things. So I'm going to go back into screen share. These are the top 3 highest voted stories on our glowing rectangles. And the first one is about Apple. So it's about Apple, but I love, again, I could kiss Gary Explains on the mouth. Gary Explains is one of my all-time favorite YouTube channels. He just recently broke 100,000 subscribers. He deserves 10 times that number and should be shared every day. But Gary Explains took a stab at this current controversy over iPhones and how they're not as secure as we thought they were. Google recently published some zero-day exploits on the iPhone, and Apple was very cavalier in their response. They were very, it's not that big a deal, which was the wrong play, especially when Apple is plastering billboards in Southern California about their private and their privacy concerns and how other manufacturers just aren't as secure. They don't treat your data with the same level of respect that we will at Apple, except mobile devices are not secure. So anyway, back to Gary. Gary has a phenomenal video breaking down this current these exploits. For the last couple years, we're very confident that a state level or well-funded operation has been extracting information off of iPhones because of these exploits. These exploits recently got patched, but it is very likely that if you went to certain sites, that they were able to get to kernel level information on the iPhone. Especially for your family and friends who are rocking iOS products, I would highly recommend checking out this video, and handily deserves to be the top voted story on our glowing rectangles. Gary is awesome, but this video is, again, just another shining example of why his tech commentary and his tech reporting is so valuable to this community. Then, right after that, this is a new entry. I haven't even subscribed. I am going to subscribe to this channel. This is Jason Koo, a new addition on glowing rectangles, running Windows 7 on Android. And he's got a tutorial, not screen sharing it, not remote controlling it, but how to run Windows 7 on Android, and just a fun enthusiast example of just some hacking, some customizing, something that you wouldn't normally think of, or you would maybe kind of dabble at or try and play with, but there's no reason why our phones can't handle more robust operating systems. So this is a really fun video to kind of browse through. I'm probably not going to do this, but I'd recommend taking a watch through because I think we're going to see some heavier lifting from our phones soon. And then this channel has just grown on me like crazy. Let me scroll down to, this is the third place video from Gadget Byte. The Redmi 7A versus Realme C2. These are phones we don't get access to in North America. I'm really enjoying Gadget Bite as a North American because I have been exposed to so many mid-rangers that I wish we could get here. But their channel in general, really sleekly produced videos, great reviews, some fun comparisons, back and forth, phone specs. The host is charming and engaging. She's super savvy at breaking all this stuff down. And again, from a perspective that we don't get to hear of as often here in North America. So those are the top 3 videos. You got Apple, but Apple talking about security and privacy. You've got a hacking video on how to run a Microsoft operating system on an Android device, and you've got a mid-ranger, I mean, not a mid-ranger, a budget battle showdown. Top 3 stories on Our Glowing Rectangles. I am super proud of this community and what it's growing into. The people that are contributing stories, that are upvoting stories and commenting, this is a wonderfully diverse, international, well-rounded tech community, and that's what I want to keep. That's what I want to continue building. I don't want this to be an echo chamber for The Verge and MKBHD. I don't want this to be an echo chamber for Samsung and Apple. There are so many other things that we could be talking about outside of the most popular trending topics. And I absolutely knew it in my heart that if there were a platform to start pushing that kind of content, we would see this kind of stuff rise to the top. So I couldn't be more proud of the people that are participating in Our Glowing Rectangles. And if you would like to help support your favorite content creators, give a boost to a smaller channel, try and get more exposure for a bigger channel that deserves more attention, I hope you'll check it out because it's shaping up to be something really exciting. And I'm just happy to be along for the ride. Occasionally, one of my videos shows up on my own subreddit. So it's good times, y'all. Matt Tyler, I joined Glowing Rectangles today and shared my first video. Matt Tyler is hooking it up. Everyone, Matt Tyler is he's got a wallet that says bad mofo on it, and everyone should give him a thumbs up. And Fat Produce, make sure y'all are commenting on Our Glowing Rectangles. So yeah, that's my plug, and I think we can move on. So we're getting to 11 o'clock. I started the stream just a little bit late, but I want to wrap up the spotlight at the end of the podcast, talking about what we'll maybe see tomorrow. Tomorrow, for all of the new phone announcements that came out during IFA, just before IFA, we're going to see Huawei later, I think in 10 days, talking about the Mate 30, whatever is going to be coming from the next Mate with that Kirin 990. Excuse me. Let me. My voice might not make it through this Apple discussion. So, I spoke about this a little bit on Jason's live stream on Painfully Honest Tech. But I don't think we've gone into an Apple announcement with this level of apathy. Even going from the iPhone 10 to the 10s, there was this sort of bubbling of maybe we'll see something fresh, maybe we'll see something exciting. And I'm already seeing the rumor and leak articles on what to expect in iPhones in 2020. I've said this for a while. Apple as a company is an extremely emotional tech purchase. They built their walled ecosystem around an idea of Apple as disruptor, which really hasn't existed for a while. It's not to say they don't make nice products. No one is saying they don't make nice products. But that same spark of being the upstart, being the smaller, being the disruptor has not existed at Apple for a while. And this is also one of the things that I'm kind of poking at Samsung for too. When you're the market leader, you increasingly stop being the disruptor. And if you're not the disruptor, then that means you're not the innovator. So it's kind of a bummer because Apple really doesn't have any competition. If you're in the iOS ecosystem, it's not like you can buy an iOS device from another manufacturer who has to compete against Apple. you're tied to whatever Apple decides to do. So we're going into this next iPhone announcement knowing that we'll probably see refreshes on Apple Watch. Actually, Apple Watch, I am anxious. I am excited to see what they do with Apple Watch because it's still the most successful iteration of a smartwatch I think we've seen. It's grown into one of the nicest wearable experiences I think you could experience. It's just a shame it's tied to one of my least favorite phone experiences at super high prices. It's a premium price. You can't, again, balancing my issues with Wear OS against a price tag that cuts LTE access on my wrist in half, I'm kind of fine wearing my TicWatch. TicWatch doing me just great. Bang for buck, hard to beat. But if money is no object, Apple Watch is super nice. So I'm really anxious to see what they do with Apple Watch. But I think Apple is 2 years into a development process that they completely missed the market. And here in the United States, I think signs are pointing to some kind of economic slowdown, nay, maybe even a full-on recession. So the idea of an iPhone 11 replacing the iPhone XR at $800 plus, not super exciting. The idea of an iPhone 11 Pro replacing the XS at $1,000, not super exciting. And also just the issues Apple has had with things like radios and modems, where the XS, my iPhone XS is a pretty phone. And the A-series chipset in that phone is beastly powerful. And I wish you could do more with the iPhone XS to really extract that power. But it has problems with my mesh Wi-Fi. It does not get the connectivity that my mid-range Android phones can get. And it definitely suffers, because, driving around Southern California, every carrier has massive dead spots. But when I'm on Google Fi on my iPhone, I am struggling more often to find good signal in some of my challenging areas than when my SIM card is in an LG, a Samsung, or my BlackBerry. So I think we're all in a similar boat. There is this existential crisis. If you're a content creator, you have to talk about Apple a lot because Apple is what's going to drive views and hits, and YouTube is going to force an echo chamber around iPhone products, Apple products, because Apple is popular. Because Apple is popular, they get to be popular. But what are we going to talk about? What are we going to say about this market? And also, where do I fit in this discussion, in this role? I'm increasingly trying not to make purchasing recommendations for people. My videos have been very frustrating to some of my community because I just won't outright say worth it, not worth it. It's something I've struggled against my entire YouTube career, but increasingly I've become even more sensitive to. I only want to try and find who might be a good fit for this gadget. I'm not going to sit here and try and tell you how to spend your money. I don't want to get to the end of a smartphone video and say, oh, but you should just buy a Galaxy S10e instead, because this phone is a master of none. That's not my job. That's not what I want to do. But I have too many family and friends that are on the iOS train. What do I do with my grandmother? She is a battle axe of an old lady on her iPad. But replacing iPads is starting to get expensive too. And I am actually a little worried when it's time for her to switch over to iPad OS, because I think it's going to change a few things that she took for granted on her older iPad, and it might make it more difficult for her to use. So I want to break this down. It's one of the only times I'm actually going to turn to The Verge, because we're talking about Apple. So it's about the only time that I think we'll see solid, in-depth, nuanced, detailed reporting. is when they're talking about Apple. This is one of the only times I'm really gonna link to them in the show notes. Let me cue this up here. Everything to expect from Apple's iPhone event, iPhone 11, Apple Watch Series 5, software updates, and more coming by way of The Verge. So we should see, this is their breakdown. I do expect that this is what we'll see is a trio of iPhones, an iPhone 11, which is just the normal replacement for the iPhone XR, an iPhone Pro 11 Pro, and an iPhone 11 Pro Max. So instead of a 10S, we're going to use the Pro moniker now, which is dumb. It's dumb to talk about a Pro phone, which really doesn't do anything different from the regular phone, unless if the Pro phone gives us all of the features of iPad OS, I will be much more interested in what Apple has to talk about for the iPhone 11. Anyway, so an iPhone 11, iPhone 11 Pro, iPhone 11 Pro Max. That totally makes sense to me. I am hoping for an iPhone SE replacement. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. Someone give me Vegas odds on what we might get if there's an iPhone SE 2 announcement tomorrow. But I think they might actually save that to fight against a Pixel 4a. So maybe it arrives early 2020 as a way to have a second hardware announcement for phones at the beginning of next year. That would be my guess. That would be my guess on their strategy. I like splitting that up. Don't talk about 4 iPhones all launching in 2019. Split some of that up because an iPhone SE would be a very different consumer target than an iPhone 11 Pro Max, whatever. Gary the Fireman, 35-1. I'll take those odds. I'll put $50 on that. I am not condoning gambling. That is absolutely not what I... But this is what I love. So The Verge, super, super pro Apple in a lot of their editorial and commentary, and they still hold Apple up as like, this is the gold standard and everything is sort of ranked under them. But even The Verge, I'm going to point this out, even The Verge couldn't hold off on their what to expect from iPhones in 2020. Despite the numerical change, this year's updates look similar to the iPhone 6s to iPhone 7 transition. Apple is keeping the designs largely the same as the previous generation and focusing more on spec boost and an overhaul to the camera. That means that larger updates, like an in-display fingerprint sensor, 5G, or a less intrusive notch, will likely wait until next year's models at the earliest. Even The Verge, in their let's get hyped for the iPhone 11 announcement, is talking about iPhone 12 or iPhone 11s or whatever it's going to be called. When so much of your audience for Apple products is built on that emotional charge of being part of Team Apple, this is scary territory to be in. A second year in a row of apathy, not good for Apple. Okay, moving right along. So this is their... let me cue this back over here. This is The Verge on Apple Watch Series 5. The Apple Watch just got a big redesign last year, so the Series 5 is expected to be a bit less of a dramatic change. Presumably, Apple will be upgrading the processor to an S5 chipset that will be faster and more power efficient than before. An early leak has revealed new titanium and ceramic case options, and we'll probably see some news on updates to Watch OS, maybe sort of in line with what we saw for Watch OS 6. So... refresh, redesign. It's funny. Apple Watch Series 5 to me looks like it might just be Apple Watch Series 4S, another iterative improvement. I'm kind of torn. I really want Apple to try a circular watch face. I know it's maybe a little less efficient for putting text and stuff on your wrist on that little circle display, but I just think it looks nicer. But I also really like
it's the only product line Apple has that doesn't have an obvious visual distinction from generation to generation to punish poor people, right? Like every Apple product has some kind of subtle flair to it so that if you're looking, you can see if someone has spent enough money to be current and to be fresh. The Apple Watch, it's really hard to visually distinguish Gen 1 from Gen 4. So while I would love to see a circular Apple Watch face, I kind of like the idea that if you're rocking an Apple Watch Series 2, you kind of look just as current as anyone else. You're doing fine. It's good. It works. You're not sort of shamed for having an older or a cheaper product. Maybe I think they should stick with the square screen. I don't know. Matt Tyler, typical Apple, the watch will be the same as last year and the iPhone will be the same as last year, but people will still get hyped and it will still sell well, and the iPhone SE2 will be a good seller. Actually, I don't think we see good data to suggest that this strategy from iPhone 10 to iPhone 11, so iPhone 10, 10s, and 11, that the market is responding well to these premium priced iPhones. The iPhone XR, I think, was the best selling iPhone this last year. That's why I'm really hoping that they will have some kind of proper mid-pack competitor with an iPhone SE2. I think Apple could do well there. I'd love to see an iOS option for some of my family and friends that could do battle against a $400 Pixel. Because right now, the iPhone XS can struggle against a Pixel 3a in a handful of tests. Like, how quickly can you plug in headphones? Pixel 3a, winner. So, I don't know. Oh, from Fat Produce, the bling factor is why I got my Almond OnePlus 7 Pro. It is a pretty phone. Do I have? Oh, it's way back there. So that's what I've been running my beta on, is the Almond OnePlus 7 Pro. I use my blue OnePlus 7 Pro to stay solid, So other just things to keep an eye out for, the Apple Tag. So if you're losing your gadgets, or you lose your keys, or you just want to low jack your kid, they're making a Tile competitor. I guess this is cool. I feel like this is a product that kind of missed part of its market. Like, this feels like a 2015 kind of gimmick accessory that, it ties into a service on your phone and you can find your keys if you lose your keys. But I if I were anyone at Tile, I would be super nervous, because I just don't think that there's a huge market for spending more on tiny little Bluetooth trackers. And also, I've got some issues with things like privacy and security. Already, if you have Bluetooth enabled all the time, it's very likely that you're being tracked in public places. Bluetooth is not super secure. There was another knob attack on Bluetooth, which, if someone wants to target you specifically, they can. And if you're just broadcasting your Bluetooth ID in any kind of public fashion, it's really easy to ping what devices are in a public area. And if you just have a couple Bluetooth little nodes in like a grocery store, they can actually map your movement through a grocery store. So now let's add Bluetooth tiles and key trackers to that. Make it even easier. Fat Produce. I'm pretty sure Jason Bourne knows my current location 24/7 since I always wear a smartwatch. Yeah, that's another thing too. I mean, I know I'm farting the signal out, but it'd be nice if I could rein it in a little bit. Okay. New Apple TV hardware. We might get a new gen Apple TV. Rumors suggest it has one in the works. It could feature an A12 processor. This makes sense to me that we might see sort of an Apple TV console. Because we know that Apple is really getting into streaming services. not just Apple TV Plus, where they're going to be showcasing some of their original series, kind of Netflix style, but also Apple Arcade. So as they come out with a games catalog specifically for Apple devices, I think it would make a lot of sense that you'd have an Apple TV Plus with a beefy chipset in there so that it can compete against Nintendo Switch style gameplay. Maybe even, sort of last gen PS4 style gameplay. So again, I'm not in the Apple ecosystem. I won't be rocking an Apple TV, but if you were looking at Apple as a potential game streaming solution, a refresh on the Apple TV makes a lot of sense, making it more of a computer and less of a Chromecast kind of setup. So that could be another exciting, a potentially interesting thing to talk about for the Apple event tomorrow. And obviously, we're going to see a lot more on software services. I don't think we're going to see anything too heavy on, like they already released the Mac Pro. That was a WWDC. They already released their $1,000 monitor stand. So I don't think there's going to be too much there. But focusing on mobility, I don't know. We might also, I think it wouldn't be too far out of the way to also maybe get an update on iPad. So I'm talking about services and software, things coming to iPad OS. But obviously they probably won't release new hardware during their iPhone event. So I don't know. I think it'll be kind of curious to see. What's going to be interesting to me also is this event is already being advertised as a broader ecosystem of Apple products. And that's smart. I was very frustrated during the Note launch, the Note 10 launch, because I went to watch this Samsung keynote to see what they said about the Note, and it turned into advertisements for Samsung laptops and Samsung smartwatches and Samsung earbuds. It was like, the Note's not exciting enough. We know people aren't as excited about the Note 10. So let's build in commercials for all of our other Samsung products in this Note launch because we know we've got eyeballs on it. I think it is smarter for Apple to make that front and center. This is an Apple products announcement, not just the iPhone announcement. Because I don't think the iPhone by itself is going to generate that kind of excitement. I don't think the iPhone itself is really going to get people lit up. But if they shotgun approach, here's some iPhone stuff, here's some services stuff. We know you like Apple Watch. We know you like Apple TV. Here are all the different little things that we've got moving and working and showcasing. That, I think, is going to get them better editorials and better commentary and coverage than if it were, here's the iPhone. Oh, and here are some other things we're working on too. Then it becomes, oh, well, Apple doesn't have enough confidence in the iPhone to only launch the iPhone. Oh, they're running scared. So that's the take. I think The Verge is pretty spot on. This is very much what I was sort of estimating Apple's strategy to be. And I'll be curious to see how much of this we actually do land correctly on. But I guess I'd also put it out there. What could Apple put out as their one more thing? What could Apple put out as their, this is where Apple can disrupt again? Because I think under Tim Cook, the next phase for Apple is going to be services. You know how I said earlier, the next phase for mobility should be consolidation. Apple won't do that. Apple won't be the leader there. They make too much money on having these separate solutions for different types of functionality. But from a business perspective, it makes a lot of sense if you can convince people to kick in another $8 a month charge on their credit card, another $5 a month charge here, another $10 a month charge there, and hopefully they just forget about it. Dollar amount so low, maybe they won't notice it in their month-to-month finances to unsubscribe when they're not using that service as often. Or you get them on just one or two things so that then they don't want to unsubscribe, even though they could probably save some cash. They don't really need it, but it's kind of nice to have. That's kind of the insidious nature of making everything a subscription service. That seems to be the next phase for Apple led by Tim Cook. It's not really going to be about the next phase of mobile computing. It's how can we extract as much money as we can from peak iPhone today and invest in whatever comes after another company shows us the path for augmented reality or VR, self-driving cars. Then we can use our enormous, war chest of funds to upset the market after someone has already proved that market can work. A lot less exciting, but great business strategy because then they don't have to take the risk themselves. So what other things do you think Apple could surprise us with? I would love to see an announcement on a partnership with self-driving automobiles. I would love to see Apple show some kind of heads-up display glasses. I've got my focals here. I love my focals. These focals are awesome. I'm going to try and have a review on these out the end of this week, the beginning of next week. But heads-up display information in a pair of glasses that so far no one's called me out on these being special or weird glasses. They just seem like chunky, geeky, nerdy kinds of frames. But, and I just got a text from my wife. Awesome. But if Apple could take a stab at a product like this, I think that could be good for the accessories market, and finding other opportunities to move data and services to other types of platforms. We know that Apple's not going to lead the charge on folding tech. We know that Apple's not going to lead the charge on desktop modes in their phones. So what else could they do? Where else could they be? Steve, how about a better Siri? Actually, you know what? Apple could stand to improve on their AI, machine learning, and subject recognition algorithms, because I think they're a step behind Qualcomm, and Qualcomm, I think, is still a step behind Huawei. Pacoston, not a chance, Steve. They axed the Siri team. Matt Tyler, Some Gadget Guy's the real MVP with them glasses. Oh, man. From Fat Produce, what about an iPhone Shuffle? It just calls random numbers and it doesn't have a screen. Oh, geez. Steve, can you see through clothes with your glasses? No, they're not perv. They're not Google Glass camera glasses. They're not pervy glasses. They're awesome heads-up display glasses. They're awesome heads-up display glasses. I love them. I will never part with them. I would be wearing them during this podcast, except they can be a little distracting when you've got notifications popping up and you're also trying to follow your script and make sure your stream doesn't crash and that your camera still works. So, folks, this is a sort of an extended run. I know last week we were doing a little bit better, getting closer to 2 hours. The week before that, we were under 2 hours. This podcast ran a little bit longer, but there was a lot to talk about from IFA. And that's also what our poll this week is under this video on Twitch. And it's kind of a dead heat. But I wanted to know, what is your favorite announcement, your mobile announcement from IFA? Were you stoked about the LG G8X, the Motorola One Zoom, the Xperia V, the TCL Plex, the Huawei announcements, the new Kirin chipset and FreeBuds, or the Samsung A90? So you can drop a vote in that poll. Just kind of play around. I'd be curious to see what takes the top spot as we're talking about IFA. And then also, I just didn't think that it would be worth adding Apple to that list because they weren't at IFA. So Matt Tyler, TCL Plex, 100% something new from a good company. Getting stoked, man. I'm telling you, TCL deserves way more attention, way more credit than they've been getting. And I just want to say, for those of you watching the live chat right now, LFA Reviews and Peter Hayton cheering at the top of the leaderboard. If anyone's going to cheer to take a third spot, I'm just getting my sea legs on all these Twitch features and functions. So, oh man, another vote for the TCL Plex. So with the people watching right now, it looks like TCL is going to take top spot. Some Gadget Guy Award of Honor for the most exciting announcement at IFA, TCL. Right on. So, folks, let's wrap this up. I am super scattered, sleep deprived, as always, for one of these podcasts. But thank you for bearing with me on a shaky start for this week's podcast. I think we found good flow, got it in there. We managed to make it through, and my voice is barely hanging on, so it's as good a place to end this as any. First of all, huge thank you, everyone in this live chat. This was a super fun discussion with so much, tech announcing to do. I know it's not the same sort of one cranky soapbox political tech news type of conversation, but kind of fun just to go through old-fashioned gadget announcements and kind of get our take on what got announced last week in Berlin. So thank you so much for joining that. Steve dropping some megapixel emojis. Matt Tyler also hooking up some gift subs. 3 gifts given today. I will get everyone subbed. Matt, you are a hero amongst men, and thank you so much for all of the support, all of the chatter, discussion, the sharing. And my last, this is the biology of running a 2.5 hour live stream is just disgusting. I've got a burp that won't come, and I worry if I force it, I might throw up my coffee. I know you all needed to know that in your lives. I'm so sorry. But again, seriously, this was a phenomenally fun chat to be a part of, and I can't thank you all enough. For those of you who have been supporting the channel, the Twitch, the YouTube, the Patreon, it's growing community. Oh, and the subreddit, our glowing rectangles. As we get through the end of this year and as we move into next year, it is a major passion project of mine that we are making a broad, diverse community of tech commentary. And those of you who have been following me here have been vital, have been amazing in helping to push that mission forward. We have a lot that we need to address in the tech community, and we can't do it with tools like YouTube's current echo chamber. We kind of need to take this on ourselves, and it's been so gratifying and so exciting to see a community of people who are walking that line and who are putting their actions forward, not just, well, I watched a video and now they owe me more free content. As an online content creator, I cannot tell you how exciting it is to see people participate, and that's always going to be key. So thank you so much for being a part of this journey, for being a part of this tech revision of this new tech world that we're going to be a part of. We'll have to make our own excitement because I don't think it's going to come from the top players making this stuff. All right. So, there's going to be a lot of stuff coming to the channel. I could go through an entire second housekeeping role. I'm not going to harass you with that, but catching me on the YouTubes, catching me on Patreon, catching me on all of the socials, SomeGadgetGuy, at SomeGadgetGuy on the Instagrams and the Twitters, here on the Twitch. I promise you there will be some very fun stuff coming shortly on V50, OnePlus 7 Pro, headphones, lots of headphone commentary coming out soon. It's going to be some cool stuff. So I'm glad to have you all along for the ride, and I think you're going to have some fun checking it all out too. So, folks, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet, at SomeGadgetGuy, like I just said. And you know that I'll be here next Monday for another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I want you all to have a fantastic week. I want you to do awesome with your technology. I want you to be awesome with your technology. And I'll catch you back here next Monday morning. I love you all. Take care. Be well.